HOA in the City Contract, aka How the HOA Got Fined, posted by KiwiFox. So, some quick backstory to this. I don't live with an HOA, thank the divines, but I have had dealings with them. I studied environmental engineering in college, and I have a degree with a specialization in water treatment systems. Normally, though, that's not my day job. Even so, recently, a friend of mine who works with one of the neighboring cities asked me if I wouldn't mind doing some tests for water pollution in a waterfowl preservation area. There had been some strange die-off events going on, and the city was trying to figure out where the source of the pollution was coming from. I'd be operating under a special contract from the city, and I was given access to any location along this waterfowl area, within reason, to perform my test. I won't go into detail about how the tests work, they're involved and can be a pain in the butt, but suffice it to say that I started taking water and soil samples from likely sources along the waterfowl preserve's borders. This showed me that there was a notable amount of nitrates and phosphates in the water, which I surmised was affecting the birds. Now to find the source. I followed the river up its length, passing a number of housing sites, a couple of apartments, and the odd settling pond. Over the course of several weeks and a barrage of tests, these were ruled out as sources. The further I went up the river, though, the stronger the concentrations became, to the point that it was dangerous for humans to even be in contact with the water. We're talking Superfund type pollution. This was last summer. As I waded up along this area, I heard some splashing and the sounds of kids playing in the water. Not good. Not good at all. Turning the bend, I come face to face with the small dock leading into the water and 4 or 5 kids taking turns jumping off of it into the water. The heavily polluted, dangerous water. There's some lady sitting on the dock watching them, and I approached her. I forget the exchange, but it boiled down to me telling her that I'm from the city, and based on some of what had been found, the children were banned from swimming in the river. The lady tried arguing the point until I told her that I was calling the marshal, code enforcement, to have the area barricaded off, and she could explain her complaints to him. She grabbed the kids and scuttled off. Marshal did arrive, found that the dock was not built with the proper code standards, and condemned it, forcing the HOA who had built it to have it demolished within the week, or the city was going to do it and they'd front the bill. That still left the matter of the pollution. That's where things got weird. Once I passed this HOA subdivision, all pollution vanished. I must have done 5 or 6 further tests to verify this, but yeah, no pollution. So, I had my culprit. The next question was figuring out what they were doing. That's where my investigative side comes in. With the help of the marshal, I started going around the properties of the HOA talking with residents. It was a few simple questions like, do you know if they're fertilizing the grass? And when do they do this? And do you know the type of fertilizer they use? Just gathering evidence. Remember the lady from earlier? Turned out she was the HOA president. I only found this out after she called the police on the marshal and I, reporting strange men wandering around her neighborhood. She called them something like 4 times in a day before the police flat out told her they work with the city and if you keep calling, we're charging you. That didn't stop her from following us around in the car and taking photos of us with her phone. Eventually, we spoke with one older gentleman that broke the case, as it were. The HOA president had been fining people for not having perfectly green grass. We were in a drought at the time, so that's no surprise there. After several of the people in the subdivision got fined by the city for watering their grass, she had taken matters into her own hand. She first tried contracting a landscaper to spray the lawns with fertilizer, but due to various EPA regulations, he apparently refused. The homeowner couldn't be certain what the lady had done next, but a couple days after that, some guys turned up with a large farm-type trailer of liquid and sprayed every single foot of grass that the HOA controlled, even right down to the water's edge. With the homeowner's permission, I took several soil samples from around his property and then samples from the common area that joined the grassy area beside the river and the dock. It took about a week to get full results back, but I had my answer. This lady had some contractors or someone spraying farm-grade fertilizer on the grass. This particular fertilizer is heavily controlled by the EPA and requires a special license to even possess, much less use. I presented all my evidence to my contact at the city and laid out just how serious the damage was, and that I was legally obligated to report the HOA to the state regulatory board for gross violations. My contact took the papers and paid me for my services, thanking me, but also noting that if this went to court, I would need to testify about my findings. Epilogue. The court was originally scheduled for March of 2020, but it never came to that. The HOA president entered a plea deal with the state, where she and the HOA was required to pay for the environmental cleanup of the river, as well as restitution to the state. The fines alone topped close to $250,000, and the cleanup, still ongoing, is expected to break $1 million itself. The HOA president got the boot, while the HOA itself was, last I heard, facing being dissolved by the state due to multiple cases of negligence and inept management. I don't know how they came in contact with that fertilizer, though I suspect that some of the charges against the HOA president had something to do with that. Want to know the sad thing though? If the HOA had simply contacted the city or the state, they would have been given a list of approved fertilizers to use, which both wouldn't have polluted the surrounding water and wouldn't have put them on the hook for an environmental disaster. The number is right on the city and state's website. The HOA just couldn't be bothered to look it up. Ruining the HOA president millions of dollars of fines and then illegal stuff all on top of it. This is insane HOA madness. What do you think? Neighbor and HOA harassment, posted by Sean B. for Life. My coworker's neighbor behind him has been reporting him to their HOA for months now, getting them fined for literally nothing. The latest issue was having a fire pit on the back porch. The bylaw mentions you can't have an open fire or have fire pits in use, but grills are allowed. But the issue here is that the fire pit is not in use. Also, the picture presented to show the fireplace on the back porch comes from that neighbor's security camera that is directly pointed at his house. The entire view of the camera is all of only his property and nothing else. The houses are separated by a drivable alleyway too. This neighbor spies on him regularly. He sees him looking out at them all the time, day and night. And also, he trespasses on people's property to find reasons to report them. I told him to fight it because he's spying, privacy breaching, and the bylaw doesn't say that you can't own one or have one out, and harassment. Any other advice? A question and update from OP. Has he got children and have them out playing in the rear yard when he uses a grill? Then lay a charge of the neighbor creating inappropriate videos. OP replies, my coworker is in college renting the house with 7 other people. They all stay inside mostly and are quiet from the info that I'm given. This entire neighborhood is right next to their college. The position of the camera gathered from the photo evidence of breaking the bylaw has direct view of the back door, so every time it opens, you can see inside the entirety of the camera view, and from all shows only the upper half of my coworker's backyard, along with his entire house. It does not show the alley street in between their houses or the owner of the camera's backyard. Are these normal houses in a suburb? Or are the HOAs gated communities with townhouses or something? Someone asked, and OP replied, it's a 3-street subdivision in a larger neighborhood. It's not gated. Wow, they seem incredibly intrusive for just a small house in a suburb. I get condos with shared common property needing them. They're seen as the downside of owning a condo and apartment here. Maybe because housing estates in the US have to maintain stuff that is maintained by the local council in other countries. The final update. So far now, he has been charged with the following: Having a fire pit in view on the back porch. The bylaw states it can't be lit that close to the house. And we're fined for it being lit, which it wasn't, and without evidence. Having a hammock drilled into the tree in their backyard, but it was one of those wraparound tension ones. This had something to do about the destruction of the landscape. Continuous complaints about different cars parked in the driveway. I don't know how this is even a thing, but when you have 7 college students renting a house, it should be expected. Continuous noise complaints. Their neighbors on both sides throw parties all the time, so the HOA groups them all together. And the most recent was a fine for having the grill on the front porch. It was never on the front porch. I helped them move in and I took it straight to the back porch. It's too big and too heavy to just move to their tiny front porch. All of this is without any proof, and most of these fines are from bylaws that don't exist or what they wish they wrote in but didn't. As in, they have no grounds for these fines. All of them have been $50 to $100, which they have refused to pay and are usually dropped. The latest one with the grill was $750. Pretty steep in my eyes for an HOA fine. They even mentioned in their emails about the fire pit that the grill is the only thing allowed on the back porch and it never left the back porch. It is clear they're being targets by the HOA and their rear neighbor. Their landlord at this point is tired of the complaints and wants them all out. This feels like a group thing, like they're all in on it. I told him to take legal action. Is there any legal action to take? Any ground to stand on? I know HOAs can pretty much do what they want sometimes. This would make me uncomfortable. What about you? Neighbor dropped her $50 on the ground in the parking lot, accused me of stealing it. The police are involved. With an update in the comments posted by Elizabeth Honey. Neighbor is a female in her 30s and accused me, 30 female, of stealing her dropped money in a parking lot where we park our cars. I pulled up to park after getting coffee this morning and she's outside in her car. She asked me if I've seen her $50 and I say, no, I haven't, but if I found it, I'll let you know. So I go inside and give my coffee to the boyfriend and then I took my dog out. While I was taking my dog out, she was banging on my door. And when boyfriend answered, she was saying that I stole her money and kept accusing me of stealing her money when he said that I didn't steal her money. And if I found it on the ground, I would have told him. She continued accusing me and was clearly upset. She then asked, where did I get the money for the coffee then? Like what? She thinks I don't have money to buy coffee in the morning. Just so odd all around and honestly a crazy thing to ask. Boyfriend called her a B and she called me a crackhead. Boyfriend went to apologize for calling her a B and just wanted to squash it and say that I wouldn't take anybody's money. She then slammed the door on his face and said that she was calling the police. The police came and basically asked what's going on and if I took her money. I told him no, up and down, that I didn't, and they said, okay, we're going to check the cameras. I replied, okay, great, just please check the cameras. They kept using the word, if I stole her money, and I just broke down and started crying because I felt like I was being accused for something that I didn't do because he used the word if at least 4 times. Finally, boyfriend says, listen, she said that she didn't do it. You don't need to keep saying if, and I said, please go check the tapes. So they did, and then they obviously told her. Then her husband comes home from work and finds me on my porch and again comes right up to my home and asks about the altercation that happened with his wife. I said that she accused me of stealing and he immediately wanted to talk to boyfriend and was very angry. I said that the cops were already called. I did not take her money. You guys can watch the cameras. This is over. Please stop harassing me. And at this point, I'm getting extremely upset and emotional. And he said, no, I'm the police now. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I filed a harassment thing with my apartment complex because of this so that I could document some paper trail. My boyfriend's at work and I don't know what's going to happen when he gets home. But these people are crazy. I'm assuming that he's angry that boyfriend called her a B, but she was being one by the way that she was acting and he even apologized after. I am just upset. Being accused of something that I didn't do and would never do. When she told me that she lost it, I felt bad. She didn't accuse me then when she asked me, so I just really don't get it. This whole thing sucks. I needed to vent. What would you guys do now? And by the way, I live in an apartment complex. They live in the second floor and we're the bottom floor. I'm nice to everybody. They blast music all day and night from their cars and porches, and I never say a word or have ever complained. Somebody makes a legal suggestion to OP and OP replies with an update. Commenter says, "You have proof. Management has proof. Have the police check with the management for that proof. Ignore these people. If they continue to harass you, call the police on them. And then tell them you're being harassed and you do not feel safe. Hugs and support your way. Sorry you had a bad day." OP updates with, "The police did check the cameras and they told me that they would tell her that I called them for an update, but the sheriff never called me back. Yeah, I don't know what to do. Her husband wants to talk to boyfriend and I just really don't want it to turn sour. I have no idea what he is going to say to him or what. But he just seemed to want to talk to him like he was ticked, and I don't know what these people are capable of." I filed a harassment report and I wrote down what happened and I said that I felt harassed at the end. I mean, these people are knocking on my door, yelling at me. Basically, it's insane and calling the cops on me. Now, her boyfriend wants to get involved with mine? Just insane. I am so over it. My boyfriend is not the type to hold his tongue, but I have begged him to because I just want this to be over. This story makes you realize never take good neighbors for granted because the bad ones can be literally insane. I sued the HOA president for selling my house out from under me, but I'm not even part of the HOA. Click the video on your screen. You don't want to miss the crazy story here and the twist of it, and I'll see you there.